I woke up to two unusual news from across the ocean in the United States. Definitely unusual. I will not say good or bad, you judge for yourself. The first, after a few days of fermentation, according to the United States, under the orders of Biden, on February 4, local time, U.S. military fighter jets over the eastern coast of the United States, the stray balloon, shot down. The Chinese side expressed strong dissatisfaction and protest. After looking at the address, the stray balloon should already be over the Atlantic Ocean. The U.S. fighter jets flew with them first, then fired missiles to shoot down the airship. The U.S. ships below immediately started the recovery of the debris. The reason for China's strong dissatisfaction is also very simple. According to the Foreign Ministry's statement, China expresses its strong dissatisfaction and protest over the use of force by the U.S. side to attack civilian unmanned airships. The Chinese side has repeatedly informed the U.S. side, after verification, that the blimp is civilian in nature and entered the U.S. due to force majeure, which was a completely accidental situation. China has clearly requested the U.S. side to handle the situation properly in a calm, professional and restrained manner. A U.S. Department of Defense spokesman also said that the balloon would not pose a military or personal threat to ground personnel. In this case, the U.S. side insisted on using force, which is clearly an overreaction and a serious violation of international practice. China will resolutely defend the legitimate rights and interests of the companies involved, while reserving the right to make further necessary responses. 1. This is a civilian airship, which entered the United States due to force majeure, completely by accident. 2. The U.S. Department of Defense has also said that this balloon does not pose a military or physical threat to ground personnel. 3. The U.S. still insists on using force. You are clearly overreacting, and, in serious violation of international practice. Americans, you are not calm enough, not professional enough, and not restrained enough. Then the Chinese side will have to defend the legitimate rights and interests of our enterprises and reserve the right to make further necessary responses. We have to see even more. Previously, U.S. Secretary of State Blinken used this incident to announce the postponement of his visit to China. For its part, the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman said, in fact, neither China nor the United States has announced any visit, and the release of the relevant news by the U.S. side is a matter for the U.S. side itself, which we respect. Seeing senior U.S. diplomat Fu Limin, one word was used to describe it: pathetic. Why? The chief U.S. interpreter during Nixon's visit to China then explained to Phoenix. The reason is simple. 1. The world now wants China and the United States to cooperate more, not get into conflict, but this postponement of the visit does not show that we cannot even communicate properly. 2. If you cannot communicate, then the relationship between China and the United States will undoubtedly continue to deteriorate, and even lead to possible conflict. 3. Blinken postponed the visit, in fact, does not indicate toughness, but rather shows political weakness. The Biden administration succumbed to Republican pressure, the lack of decisive foreign policy decisions. This incidental event is also considered the beginning of a new game between China and the United States this year. Secondly, a Chinese giant panda died in the United States, a strange death indeed, because it was going back to China this spring. The male giant panda, named Lele, came to the Memphis Zoo in 2003. He was a real joyful panda, with a simple demeanor and a love of apples, bringing joy to many Americans. But in the first month of this year, on the eve of his return to China, Lele was gone forever. Americans were shocked, and so were the Chinese. The Chinese embassy in the U.S. has issued a statement, expressing its sadness and regret over the death of Lele, and will assist the relevant parties to do a good job in the aftermath. The Chinese authorities are also very concerned, and have informed the U.S. side to properly preserve the body. The Chinese team of experts will go to the U.S. as soon as possible, and the U.S. experts to jointly carry out the cause of death of Lele investigation. When I was working in the United States, sometimes I would drive to the Washington Zoo to see the pandas when I was in a bad mood. Pandas are always happy, and Americans do love pandas. The most crowded part of the zoo is the panda house, watching pandas climb up and down, and watching the newborn baby pandas roll around naughtily. When Nixon visited China in 1972, the most precious gift from China, was 2 giant pandas, which made Mrs. Nixon overjoyed. I still see the large wooden cage in the Panda Pavilion at the Washington Zoo where the pandas were presented back then. Indeed, as the Chinese embassy said, the pandas carry the appreciation and friendship between the people of China and the United States. The 25-year-old, Lele, still died in the United States, on the eve of his return to China. I believe that it was 99% an accident. Life is a life. The grass is an autumn, old age, sickness and death, always inevitable. But this note, more or less deplorable. 2 events, should not have any connection, but more or less involved in the feelings of the people of the 2 countries. I saw some Westerners also said that the stray balloon is more of an accidental small thing, and now the hype is such that it is related to the domestic atmosphere in the United States. It is hard to imagine that if an Australian balloon floats to the United States, the Americans are also so alarmed. Such a fuss? Behind the scenes, there is still a problem of mutual trust. Above the issue of mutual trust is the issue of politics. In the past few years, Sino-US relations have felt like a roller coaster ride. In the final analysis, the United States has a strategic misjudgment and strategic hatred of China, and some American politicians like to look at China with tinted glasses, always hoping to find some bones in the eggs, and then all sorts of relish, political speculation, for their own political interests. If we follow this logic, according to some people in the United States, Lele is a Chinese panda. Lele died before returning to China. Was he mistreated? Is there some conspiracy? I don't know. But what I do know is that there is only one truth. If there is no evidence, only conspiracy theories, then there is no end. If there is only force, no restraint, then it is really the world in chaos. This spring, the world is chaotic enough. I still hope that China and the United States can be calm. Use the 16 words Wang Yi said to Blinken. Maintain determination. Communicate in time. Avoid miscalculation and manage differences. Can the Americans do it? Translated with www.deepl.com/translator, free version.